Great. Just as a recap, 2018-02 ballot proposal 2 was an initiative where voters and not legislators take responsibility for nonpartisan, say it with me, nonpartisan. Oh, what a novel idea. A nonpartisan redistricting and created the MICRC. It's comprised of 13 randomly selected Michigan residents that includes 4 who affiliate with the Democrats, 5 who affiliate with independents, and 4 who affiliate with Republicans. In other words, they don't have to certify, they just have to identify. Did you see that rap going on? Not certify, but identify. Yeah, I see you're nodding with me, appreciate that. And they are the only entity responsible for redistricting. It doesn't go, the legislature can't change it, the governor can't veto it, the Supreme Court can't alter it. The only body responsible for redistricting is the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. It's comprised of 13, as I said, randomly selected. We have Doug Clark, and I'll go from the upper left and go over Doug Clark, Juanita Curry, Anthony Eade, Brittany Kellum, Rhonda Lang, Stephen Lett. The bottom row, starting with Cynthia Orton, who's in the hot pink blouse, MC Rothhorn, Rebecca Zatella, Janice Villette, Aaron Wagner, Richard Weiss, and Dustin Witches. These are the group that is responsible for drawing the maps. As you know, redistricting takes place every 10 years. So as a result, this has a 10-year impact. So do not look at redistricting as for the here and now, but understand that the lines are being drawn have a 10-year impact. So it impacts you not just for today, but also for tomorrow. So where would you move? Where do you want to start your career or work across the state? Where do your parents live? What are your interests? Depending on where you want to reside in Michigan. So you want to think about it from that standpoint. And for the first time in history, Michigan citizens have a say in how the maps are drawn. Before you didn't have a say. Now you have a say. It is mandated in the Constitution that we are to get public engagement, meaningful public engagement. And that's why you see us doing outreach, going to the college campuses was a joy so that we could get the word out about the redistricting process. Residents get to help draw maps and have a say about which areas should be represented. So that's why we're telling people hashtag show up, speak up. Hashtag show up and speak up at one of our meetings. Why you should care. You have a chance to see how your voice and your community's voice is heard and represented. Instead of politicians identifying districts where they can win, now you can identify districts where politicians have to represent your interest and your community's interests. In other words, redistricting helps keeps your community together. And as a result of your community being together, you can elect politicians that reflect your values on healthcare, education, public safety, and justice. The redistricting breakdown, it's about 10,100,000 people in Michigan. We have 161 districts that the commission is drawing, 13 congressional districts, which will average 775,000, 200,000. The congressional is also known as the 13 US House of Representatives. Because our population did not increase as fast as other states, instead of having 14, we have 13 this year. We have 38 Michigan Senate with the average of 265,200 people, and then 110 Michigan House with the average of 91,600 people. So these are the maps that the commission is currently working on in terms of drawing them. The redistricting criteria, this is in ranked priority order. So therefore, when you look at it, I want to clearly state this is in ranked priority order. You can't go from 1 to 6 or 5, ranked priority order. Equal population, the Voting Rights Act, geographically contiguous, reflects the state's diversity and communities of interest, no disproportionate advantage to any political party, no favor or disfavor to an incumbent elected official or a candidate, reflect consideration of a county, city, and town. Now, this is number 6. Let me be very clear. You cannot arbitrarily say county, city, and township are communities of interest. Communities of interest is an ambiguous definition so that citizens can identify what they are. And they represent historical or cultural characteristics or economic interests. They can transcend a city, a township, and county boundary. And they have to be reasonably compact. Let me be very clear. Just because you have service agreements with other municipalities or counties or what have you, it does not mean they're going to be disrupted if you're not in the same area. Let me say it again. Some of you have service agreements, whether it's for water, whether it's for public safety. Just because you're not in the same district, it does not mean that those services will not continue. Just want to share that. But this is the 7 rank criteria that the commission is required to follow when drawing each and every one of their 161 districts. Mapping process. The commission is currently finishing their maps. They're in the process of bringing some proposed maps for our second round of public hearing that will take place on Monday, October 18th. Our proposed maps are scheduled to be done on Tuesday. I repeat, Tuesday, October 12th. Tuesday, October 12th. So the way they did it, they divided the state up into 10 regions to create these districts. They crossed over regions to ensure compliance with the redistricting criteria. And that's what they're doing. And right now they're trying to ensure that the districts they're drawing are in compliance. They're trying to ensure the districts they're drawing are in compliance. And that's what's happening today. For our second round of public hearings, we need to hear comments regarding the proposed 161 districts. Each proposed district plan will include census data. It'll have a map and it'll have a legal description. And the Constitution requires that we have 5 public hearings. We're having 5 public hearings in the following places. We'll be at Grand Rapids, October 18th from 1 to 3:30. We will recess from 3:30 to 5 and resume the meeting from 5 to 8 or until everyone has had a chance to speak. If you would like to speak at either in person or remotely, you have 1 minute to speak with regards to that, and you can identify the map that you want to reference during that time and they'll bring it up for you. We'll be at the Amber Grand Plaza Hotel on the 18th, TCF Center in Detroit on the 20th, Lansing Center on the 21st, and the 25th, Treetops Resort, and the 26th, the Dort Center. Those are the 5 locations that we'll be at. Adopting maps. After the commission goes through the second round of public hearing and obtains feedback, they're going to maybe make some adjustments based on the feedback, what have you. I'm not sure what they're going to do, but after they do that, they're going to adopt maps. And after they adopt the maps, after the second round of public hearing, there's a 45-day period for public comment. That will start on Sunday, November 14th, and will end Wednesday, December 29th, I believe. Let me make sure I have the right date. I do not want to give you the wrong dates because Nate and Landon are listening and you don't want to screw up with the pressure of Nate and Landon on the video. You guys are smiling, you understand. Okay, that is correct. Sunday, November 14th to Wednesday, November 29th. And then after Wednesday 29th, if they don't make any changes, on December 30th, they will vote for the maps. And when they vote for the maps, it will require 2 members each who affiliate with the Democrats, the Republicans, and neither the Democrats or Republicans for each map. And then they'll need 1 person. Since there's 13 people, they'll need 7. But it must have 2 who affiliate with the Democrats, 2 who affiliate with Republicans, and 2 who affiliate with the Democrats. They'll publish the adopted maps and supporting material and data within 30 days after we meet. And then the maps become law 60 days after publication. We do expect legal challenges, just so you know, because we know we can't make everyone happy. We know we can't make everyone happy. And so if there's legal challenges, they have to address them with the Supreme Court. They can either file in Detroit or Lansing at the Supreme Court office. The Supreme Court can review at its discretion challenges to any maps adopted by the commission. They remand any maps that fail to comply with the Michigan and US constitutions or superseding federal laws such as the Voting Rights Act. Once again, I wanted to alert you that the MICRC is the only body that can create and adopt maps for Michigan's congressional House and Senate districts. We want you to show up and speak up. You can get email alerts by going to our website. You can get text message alerts by going to our website as well. You can mail your public comments to MICRC at the PO box there, or you can call to learn how to provide public comments at a regular meeting. We do have interpreters, so language is not a barrier. If you have speech impediment and need more time, we will take that into consideration as well, so that you get the full 60 minutes, just like everyone else. So if you call that number, we can set those things up for you. And once again, I want to say it clearly, that internet access is not a barrier to speak. We want to hear from you. And then show up. You can like us and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter at Redistricting MI. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can submit public comments at the portal, or you can post public comments on our proposed maps also at our website as well. So just kind of wanted to share that information with you. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them at this time, but I hope I was clear. I hope I was succinct, and I really hope I wasn't boring.
Awesome, great. Yeah, so now if anyone has any questions on the redistricting process, any information that they would like to ask Edward about, feel free to post in chat. We'll uplift those and get some of that information out to you. Looks like we have a question about how the commission members were determined and selected. Edward, do you want to talk a little bit about how that process
Sure.
went?
The Michigan Department of State did a random selection for them, a randomly selection across the state, and they just basically self-identified on their application. It wasn't like the party submitted the names or anything along those lines. They self-identified who they affiliated with. It was not a certification process or authorized process. They self-identified. Having said that, both in the legislature, the House majority, House minority, Senate majority, Senate minority, could cross out names. If they saw names on the list that they didn't support, they had the ability to cross out some names. But once again, it was a self-identification process, not a certified process. Lisa, did that answer your question? I hope. I'm not trying to duck anyone. Great. Well, I hope to see you, each and every one of you, at the public hearings. That would just be awesome to see you at the public hearings, engaged in the process. Bring your friends, tell the community, tell your advisors, your professors, your administrators, support staff, anybody and everybody, your colleagues, to come out to the public hearings. You see the 5 that we're having, and we will stay till every voice is heard. We will stay till every voice is heard. What's been your sense of how it's been going? Interesting. Interesting. I think I love the engagement, in terms of, you have your serial people who come in every day to speak and you hear them. So that's kind of, fun. But when you ask for engagement and you get it, you have to accept the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think the engagement is what I like, because it is a new process. My biggest thing that keeps me up at night is, are people aware? That's probably my biggest fear. Are people aware? Is your campus community aware? Your students, are they aware? Your faculty, your staff, are they aware? And if they are aware, are they raising their voice? I mean, I would hate to go through the process and people not be aware about their right to participate in democracy, especially one that has been labeled as gerrymandering, regardless of the parties involved. Here's a new chance to participate in democracy. And my biggest concern is whether or not people are aware and know how to raise their voice. That would probably be the best sense that I could share with you from a communications and outreach perspective. Has the commission been adequately funded? Well, it's kind of hard to tell in an era of COVID, because we didn't meet. If you look at our meetings, they had one meeting in person in September. Their orientation was 2 days. And after that, we've been meeting online. So you didn't have the cost for AV, the technology, you know, all the costs that we're spending now for room rental and technology we didn't have before. So it's kind of hard to say whether or not the 25% of the Secretary of State's budget is really enough. I would say, you know, depending on, we probably need to go through a full year to kind of see, but we probably could have used a little bit more money with regards to it. I think we were about 3.1 was what we had last year. They just approved the budgets and we're waiting to get filled our 25%. So our budget is a little bit over 3 million. We kind of ran a skeleton crew in terms of staff. You know, we only had 3 full-time staff and 1 part-time. So that's a great question. We'll probably do an analysis and see how we could best do it, and then also try to do funding to scale based on what happens this current fiscal year. Because if you look at it, we didn't really start meeting in person until May. So you're looking at October, November, December, January, February, March, April. 7 months we met, you know, via Zoom. So that's a huge cost savings. So we would have to look at mileage, hotels, and just see what would have been practical. Should we have added additional staff in terms of getting some of the work done? Those are the type of things that we'll need to do an assessment on and see whether or not we had enough funding. Different. You know, I mean, that's something that is hypothetical with regards to the news articles. I think the commission is doing a great job in following the 7 redistricting criteria. And, you know, we won't know, the proof won't be in the pudding until the vote is taken on December 30th. But I can honestly say, well, you know, Michigan was labeled as having the most gerrymandered maps in the country. I honestly believe that won't be the case, knowing that the commission is following its mission to draw fair maps with citizen input. So that's why I believe the commission will stick to that mission. And I think you will see better maps. I honestly do believe that.
Awesome. Well, if there's no more questions, thank you so much, Edward. We really appreciated it. That was really informative and I think really helpful. So if we could do a round of applause for Edward and the great information he was able to share.
Thank you so much again for having me. And I hope each and every one of you have a great weekend. Go blue, go green, go white, go chips, go everybody. As you have a success this weekend. Thank you again.
Awesome, thank you. We have a few minutes left still of this session, so I'm actually going to share the Independent Redistricting Commission's website a little bit and walk through where the draft maps are. I think it's something that over the summer and up until just a few weeks ago was a technological challenge for the commission to get on the website, but it's now figured out and it's really accessible. So I just want to go over first. So this is just the landing page of the website. If under the mapping process tab, they now have the proposed draft map section. And there's 2 links here. There's one that that brings up an Excel document, which has a list of the different maps. But there's also this My Districting website. So if we go to this website, it pulls up the congressional, state house, and state senate maps that are that are approved, that have been drafted by the commission. So they have, I think they have 15 different congressional map drafts, so different maps up right now. And so there's a lot of different variations depending on that. But if you click on the comment link on any of these maps, it brings up the district draft that they have for that. And it allows you to comment right on it. It allows you to put a pin about where your comment is referring to. And it allows it to say red if you don't think that's a positive, green if you think it is a positive drawing in the map, and then yellow for more of a neutral. So you can see there's a lot of different comments on a lot of these different maps. And it just allows feedback for the commission. The commission looks at these comments and this is how they determine how they want to make changes, if they're going to make changes, and different aspects of that communication process. So this website, and like I said, it's you can get there right through the landing page on the My Districting Michigan. is a great resource to look at. Look at the draft maps that are being proposed, look at how it affects your local communities, and to be able to comment right on those maps, on the individual maps, and be able to share it. To do other, to comment normally, let's see, here we are. To comment not just on specific proposal maps, you can submit public comment on the main page, and you can submit written testimony. You can draw a redistricting plan and submit what your maps that you think they should look like, or you can identify a community of interest. So this is where you would do like that typical comment, but now that we're moving into those public hearings and there's draft maps, you can also comment right on those draft maps on the My Districting webpage. So hopefully that was helpful as just a little bit of a resource. How do I, where's share? Okay. Sharing screen? It is hidden. Okay. Yes, so I'm done going through that. I just cannot figure out how to unshare my screen at the moment, which I apologize for. There it is. It was hidden behind the tab. Okay. I know we'll be starting a few minutes early, but I think we have everyone at the clerk engagement panel, and I think they'll have a lot to talk about. So if that's good with everyone, we'll kick off that panel 7 minutes early and give them a little bit of extra time. And to start that process off, I'm going to introduce Edie Goldenberg from the University of Michigan to get us going. And then we'll move on from there. So, and meet the rest of the panelists.
Thank you very much, Landon. And I'm very glad to be here. And I'm really thrilled that we're going to have a discussion about how campuses can engage constructively with their local clerks. We have with us today several great panelists. First of all, Jennifer Schuster, who is the East Lansing clerk. Aaron Burns, who is at the University of Michigan, the Ginsberg Center for Civic Engagement. And Stephanie Rowden, who is also at the University of Michigan in the Art and Design School, the Stamp School. And I thought we would start with Stephanie. Let me turn things over to you, Stephanie.
Let's see. And hi everyone, am I able to share screen?
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. Boy, Edward is really hard to follow. I want to like do a workshop with him. That was great. Anyhow, we're going to be talking about the satellite office of the Ann Arbor City Clerk that we created for our University of Michigan Museum of Art. And let me just find my way over to I just want to move my way over to our site and then I will start in earnest. Okay, here we go. Whoops. Can you all see my screen? Creative Campus Voting Project. Okay, so yes, hi, I'm Stephanie Rowden. I teach at the Stamp School of Art and Design at the University of Michigan. My colleague, Hannah Smotrich, and I co-lead an ongoing initiative that we call the Creative Campus Voting Project, which is kind of our ongoing creative research really into what art and design can bring to the table to all of the good efforts that are already happening on our campus and other campuses when it comes to helping students vote. Sort of what skill sets and mindsets can we contribute? So this is our website, and the Ann Arbor City Clerk's office at UMA, which is our U of M Art Museum, was one of our projects in 2020, and that's what we're going to talk about. And so here's a moment from that project, which took place over 6 weeks, starting National Voter Registration Day. And one of the things that we're thinking about in our work is how to design an experience for new voters, new college voters, to make the voting, the registration and voting process clear and visible and welcoming and even delightful. So we transformed a glass gallery at in our museum into a hub for student voting over these weeks, and we were, of course, really pleased with the numbers. Over 5,000 registered and over 8,000 ballots were collected. And one of the reasons why I love talking about this project is that it just, it was a lot of fun, actually. It came together really, had to come together really quickly, but it was such a great, positive experience that, that we had, that students had, and even clerks had. And that's something that we're going to touch on, is kind of what are the benefits back and forth. Of course, we had wonderful student volunteers. So this points me to really important point, which is all the collaborators going into this project. So the Ginsberg Center and Turn Up, Turn Out, who were so instrumental in training and recruiting the volunteers, who were so helpful with the kind of peer-to-peer support. And of course, I know we're going to talk about how this came to be, but I have to say that Edie's work with building a really great conversation and relationship with our city clerk, Jackie Boudry, was really the foundation on which this project is built. Okay, so here we're looking inside the glass gallery, and the fact that this was a clear, visible presence in the center of campus, like literally centered in students' lives, is really important to us. And we feel really fortunate we were able to have this space, both because it's a beautiful space and it was really something that was very easy to stumble upon, even if you didn't know it was already there. This branding identity, register, request a ballot, vote early was something that we used throughout. So you can see it on the wall leading into the gallery and even on the windows. And that was a way both to publicize the office, but also make the process explicit, the new streamlined process. In terms of our thinking about experience design, we gave a lot of thought to how to, what guidance do new voters need? What are the tripping points? And in what sequence do we need to deliver that information? So this process, which can feel very overwhelming, can feel less overwhelming. So to that, Hannah designed this wonderful City of Ann Arbor ballot drop box, which actually now there's a similar one actually at the city clerk's office downtown. But she also designed this backdrop here, which outlined the steps for returning your ballot and just made it really clear. And we got really good feedback on how few ballots needed to be returned or couldn't be counted because, for example, they weren't, the envelope didn't have the official signature on the back. We also created a little bit of guidance inside the privacy of the voting booth that just clarified some of the rules around filling out the ballot. And then just a couple more images, and then I'll pass things over. Let me just make these as big as I can. Hopefully everyone can see those. So I think one of the most important things for us was just how to make the experience welcoming and kind of reduce confusion and the anxiety that grows around that. And so for students to be able to sit down and have a conversation with the clerk, and these clerks were so wonderful, was really, we got so much good feedback about that. And so here's some folks delivering their absentee ballots, more conversations, a sense of some of the signage we created along with the registration forms, clerk posing by the ballot box, and here's more of the signage on the outside. So you can see here just how visible the office was and how great that was just to have students walking by or community members, faculty, staff walking by and able to look in and see this kind of very open, very pleasant space. And another view. And we feel like being able to situate this inside the art museum, which is kind of an unexpected space for this kind of civic activity. We got a lot of nice feedback on how that sort of elevated the experience. I know it's not always possible, but we felt really fortunate. So you can see students are waiting in line. We've got some great volunteers here ready to greet them and answer any questions as they prepare to have an interaction with the clerk. But then there's also artwork on the wall. And there's Secretary Benson on National Voter Registration Day, which was our opening day, and that was really wonderful. We love this foot selfie that she was taking as she was entering. And there's Secretary Benson with Jackie Boudry on the right and some of the clerks. And another view of the space. And I'll just end here with someone very happy to have completed the whole process. So I don't know if I'm running over, but Edie, would this be a good time to show our 5
Yes.
suggestions? Okay.
Yes, please do.
Okay. So what I will, I'll put a link to the website and also to the article where these suggestions are also listed that Hannah and I put together. And let's see if I can pull this up here. So I will, okay, here we go. So it's been really interesting to think about sort of what are the takeaways here, and for anyone else interested in doing a related project, sort of what can we learn from this experience. And so Hannah and I put together these 5 suggestions. The first, of course, is what Edie kicked off, which was starting a conversation with your clerk. And as I mentioned, and I'm sure Edie will speak to, the collaboration has benefits in both directions, both for the educational mission for the school, but also just the logistical ease for local government. And I'm sure Edie can speak to that. And because we were really trying to address a problem that had arisen in the March primary, where there was just a kind of a crush of students in City Hall, to engage with the art community on your campus to find a central location. So this is really about finding a space that has a strong visual presence. 3 is really thinking about how to create a clear, calm environment that facilitates the process for students, voters, and for clerks. We want to make it a really good experience for them as well. So Hannah and I are faculty in our School of Art and Design. This might be a great project for art and design faculty and students who really want to do something very concrete and actually is a really interesting creative challenge. 4th is really important here, and I can't overstate how important it is, the work that goes into enlisting and training student volunteers. So this is something I'm sure that Aaron and Logan can speak to, because they were they're really doing all the work there to but the peer-to-peer interaction to help other students feel welcome and also prepare them for their interactions with the clerks. And 5 is something I think we're all always working on and trying to figure out, which is publicizing the opportunity through as many channels as possible. So I think I didn't show you some of the swag, the t-shirts that we created. I might dig one of those up before I sign off. But yeah, the t-shirts, buttons, laptop stickers, those were really big. And anything to make the voting visible and celebrate participation. And I guess I would add to this list anything that you can do to create a selfie opportunity to sort of do some, vote tripling is great. And Edie, do you mind if I just find a picture of a t-shirt and just kind of end on that note there? So let's see here. See if we can, there we go. That was the image I wanted to. So those were among the t-shirts that we created. So,
thank you, Stephanie. That's really great. I want to invite anyone to put questions in the chat. I'm sure we'll get Landon to take a look there and help us identify questions that you may have for anyone on the panel. I have to say, Jennifer, you might be really surprised to see so much green on the Ann Arbor campus. One of the things about that, we don't do green normally, and it's because, of course, our arch rival at MSU is green, but it really stood out because we don't have much green on our campus. And there was a kind of green theme that we saw there. I think one of the things I want to mention about Stephanie's effort is the evaluation that they did, checking in with students afterward to find out what the experience was like. And they know how to have fun at the Stamp School. They know how to make things fun. I hadn't really thought so much about the games and the ideas that they came up with, nor had I thought about the importance of the space that we choose. And so, the art and design faculty really have a lot to offer that the rest of us simply are not that good at. And so I was really terrifically pleased with this partnership. Okay, so Jennifer, I want you to introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been a clerk in East Lansing, and maybe you'd like to say a few words.
Okay. Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting me to participate in the panel discussion today. I'm Jennifer Schuster, East Lansing City Clerk, home of Michigan State University, and I've been the city clerk here for about 4 years. And we are currently operating our second ever clerk satellite office here on the campus of MSU. We have a city council election on November 2nd, and we wanted students to have an on-site resource for this election, but also be on hand to assist students with any voting or election questions that they may have.
Okay. You had your first satellite office when? Was it in 2020?
Yes, we had our first satellite office in November 2020. The goal was to have that on campus. But as you know, our students were sent home. We didn't have students living in the residence halls. We didn't have in-person classes. So the university thought it would be better if we moved to a city-owned building and do our pilot program there. So that is what we did. We did our local community center and set up a month-long satellite office there. And we were able to use that as our first pilot program. And then with this small city council election this year, we were able to move that pilot on campus to get prepared for 2022. So we're really thankful for this opportunity.
Great. That's nice to know. And I saw Eric John. I hope you're still with us, because once we work our way through Aaron's comments, I see that you're a deputy clerk in Bridgeton Township, and maybe you'd like to chime in. But before that, let me turn to Erin Burns, who is the official point person for the Big Ten voting challenge. And she's been involved. We've been partners now for several years, and she's been involved in all aspects of our efforts on campus. So Erin?
Thanks, Edie. I appreciate it. And thanks to all my fellow panelists. This is a really great conversation. And I think the only thing I would add, I would build on some of what Professor Rowden had mentioned with regard to our satellite city clerk's office on the Ann Arbor campus. I think partnership is key, as was referenced. This is something that no one can do alone or do in isolation. So for folks who are, listening to this conversation between folks in Ann Arbor and East Lansing and trying to think about how to get that up and running, I would say the first thing is just figuring out who your allies are on campus and who can help you kind of advance your goals and move things forward in a way that is creative and that is fun and that's rooted in partnership and really focused on student needs. And to that end, I think, our student team who were there were so critical. I think having that peer-to-peer support was really fantastic. And also, of course, having staff from the clerk's office to answer some of those more technical questions. I think that kind of convergence of peer-to-peer and professional, highly trained, well-educated staff, I think those things were really critical for us. And lastly, I'll just mention, of course, our satellite city clerk's office came about kind of in the earlier days of COVID in 2020 in the fall. And I think one thing that I really felt was important, especially during that time when there was such a kind of a deluge of information was changing pretty consistently, and there was just a lot going on, and I think it was a lot to process. For us, having the satellite city clerk's office as a one-stop shop on campus was huge. It was kind of the one place where students could go on campus in person, and it helped us streamline our messaging as well. And I think during that time, again, there was so much information that was ever changing or ever evolving. But isn't that always the case to some extent, right? Students are always inundated with a lot of information, a lot of messaging. So I think one thing that really helped us be successful was that one-stop shop approach, the streamlined messaging, and just telling students, this is the one place we want you to go on campus. We will be here, these days, these hours. There will be trained and skilled team of students and staff here to support you. And, you can come in, you can get registered for the first time, you can update your voter reg, and you can complete and submit an absentee ballot in one fell swoop. That's fantastic. I don't know if it gets much easier than that. And so I just think that one-stop shop mentality and messaging was really important for us and maybe something for other folks to consider as well.
Yes, and let me mention another little spinoff, Aaron. You remind me that during COVID, we had quite a few students up in quarantine and isolation. And they were moved out of their residence halls. They were moved into a residence hall on our North Campus. And quite late in the process, we learned they weren't getting their mail. This was absolutely a disaster in the making, given that they weren't receiving their absentee ballots. So we immediately did a pivot to work with student services to get that mail delivered. And of course, with our clerk, who was so kind that she actually installed a temporary drop box in the quarantine and isolation area for a few days, which allowed these students who were not really able to go out to complete their ballots and have a place to drop them. And that's the kind of thing which having a relationship already established can really help, because the clerks are, your best friends in the sense of wanting to execute a respectable, law-abiding election, but one that really allows all eligible students or all eligible voters to vote. I mean, they really believe in the democratic process, and they are, frankly, our heroes in making our way through this rather difficult COVID period. So before we have a question from Norma, I see, but before we do this, let me just ask Eric, Eric, we're at two really big places, and you are in the township. And I know that the resources available to clerks in different areas are different. And I know also that the demands of student needs may be quite different. So perhaps you could say a word about what was happening.
Sure. So thank you, Edie, and team. I am Eric Sapiniak. I was the student body president at Grand Valley. And all throughout my time at Grand Valley, we worked with Allendale Township, Allendale Charter Township, to finally build a satellite clerk's office. And that was fully up and operational in the November 2020 election, including all day on election day, when they had a deputy clerk that was there processing voters on campus. And the clerk that was elected in November 2020 in Allendale is very much appreciative of those efforts and has plans to build out a full-fledged precinct, which is really exciting for the team of student senators that come behind me that are still working on this. I wanted to mention, right now I am a graduate student at the University of Minnesota studying election administration. So for any young folks that are listening and you have a passion for this work, of course, that's why you're here. But if you have that passion and specifically you want to work in election administration or in clerking, any one of us clerks or elected officials or your mentors would be happy to help guide you in that process. There are 2 election administration programs in the country. If you'd like to look at these as graduate school options, and those are at University of Minnesota and Auburn University. Ottawa County Clerk's Office has folks in both of those programs, as well as like you might consider joining the International Institute of Municipal Clerks and working toward your certified municipal clerk designation. These are all things, if you want to do this work long-term, we certainly need you. And we would love to see any one of you down the road work in our offices, interact with our offices. So I right now work as a deputy clerk for a really small township of about 2,200. But if you think about it, there are these type of roles all across the state and in your community. And so it's worth reaching out to your own township or city clerk about job postings, watching for those. And there are many of these that you can do and learn from someone with more experience, even while you're in your undergrad. So don't shy away from these things. Clerks come from a whole host of different experiences, and it would be great to get involved, get some experience now. If you want a really cool job, I say we have the best profession out there. Or if you just want to explore to see if this side of elections is for you, a great opportunity is to start in a local clerk's office.
Gee, Jennifer, Eric is like a walking advertisement. It's great. I'm sad to say that there are more openings for clerks these days than there have been, partly because of all the nonsense that has brought pressure on clerks in the number of states. And it has caused some of them, frankly, to resign and decide they don't want to do this job anymore. So this is a job opportunity. All right. Norma is asking what percentage of our students at U of M, and I don't know the answer from MSU, vote locally versus registering and voting in their hometown. Aaron or Logan, do you know the answer to that?
I might have to look at our NSELV. Logan, do you have any numbers off the top of your head?
We don't know certainly for 2020.
Right.
The one thing we do know is that because they've told us is that students who come from places like Washington, D.C. tend to want to vote in Michigan because they really can't influence in a presidential race. Whereas I hear from students from places like North Carolina, Georgia, that those races are seen as highly competitive also, and they may choose to vote at home. So students are a little strategic, as they should be, in thinking about all students have the right legally to vote either at home or at their campus address. Many new students do not know that, so that's part of our education effort that we have to do. And then they have to decide what's best for them. Maybe 35% didn't vote in person. Okay. One thing that happened this last time is that the numbers who voted by absentee ballot soared. And one of the things that we know is that in the primaries were kind of a mess in a lot of places, especially in Wisconsin. It was a kind of, it was a function of how far along in COVID we were as to what the state was up against. And we had ours, we had just really become sensitive to COVID, but we didn't really know what it was all about at the time of our primary. And I don't know about you, Jennifer, but we had these incredibly long lines at the clerk's office for the primary.
The presidential primary, yes. Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. And one of the things we did with the clerk's blessing is that we went and tried to move the line along to make sure people had their materials that they needed, that they were in the right line. They were in line all the way around City Hall and out the door and down the stairs and down the block. You had this also in East Lansing?
Yes, absolutely. And we actually created 2 separate lines because of that, like you said, to keep the line moving. We had one to register to vote and then a separate one to vote absentee.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried everything we could to keep our line moving too.
Yeah. One of the ways that our campus helped the clerk, this was really before I got involved, was our School of Information helped develop a line tracking system. And when we opened the satellite office, we had 2 different line tracking capabilities, and we could direct students from one line at the satellite office to the City Hall, the other line, if they were really out of balance. And that's something that the clerk really seemed to appreciate. I don't know whether you've had experience in partnering, whether some of the student volunteers have been willing or able to do projects that have helped you deal with these kinds of challenges that you face in East Lansing.
We have been looking into the line tracking management and also being able to have students go online and be able to see where the longest line is at that point. So they know which location to go to, which has the shorter line at that point, and try and help the students out, but also our offices to keep those lines moving.
Yes, Norma, you're right. And this is why, we have students from all over the country, but most of our colleges and universities in Michigan tend to draw their students from Michigan. I mean, we have quite a few from Michigan as well. But it's a lot of the campuses would be trying to help students primarily with the challenges in Michigan. So can a satellite clerk register students at their home address? No, not really. But you do have online registration. Right, Jennifer?
Yes, it gets tricky once you get to that 2-week point before the election, because you do have to register in person with your local clerk at that point and show proof of residency. So that's when the students need to really prepare well before election day on their plan.
So Jennifer, if I may, let me ask you also, what are the most common mistakes that students make when they try to get registered or they try to vote?
And I would go back to the point that the issue I see the most is that students are waiting until election day to make a plan for both registering to vote and voting. And while this remains an option because of same-day voter registration, I highly recommend that students take the time to register, check their information, and make a plan for voting ahead of election day. And like you said too, this has never been easier now that we have online options for students to register, check their information, and even request an absentee ballot right online. And again, if students wait until that 2-week period before election day, they have to go in person with their local clerk and register to vote with proof of residency. So it's much simpler to go online ahead of this 2-week period and make a plan for voting, whether that's requesting an absentee ballot or looking up their polling location if they choose to vote in person on election day. I just really, stress that students have a plan.
That point is so important. And students are oftentimes used to studying to the test. And I know when I was a student, I crammed all night before my test. That's not the way to vote, which is why our art and design faculty moved ahead with a plan called 10 Tuesdays, because it turned out there were 10 Tuesdays from the start of classes until election day. And every week on Tuesday, new material went out about where you should be in the planning and preparation stage. And it wasn't, carping kind of messaging. It was more encouraging. It's not as though it was too late. It's just that trying to get people to think about the steps in the process and move ahead with them is so important and, frankly, so challenging for all of us.
Yeah, one of the pieces of feedback that we got from students going into 2020 that prompted this 10 Tuesdays idea was that students had a really good sense of what the shape of each week was, like what happens on a Monday or a Wednesday. But if you were going to ask them what's happening 2 weeks from now, forget about it. And so we just decided to lean into that and just really think about, okay, every Tuesday, what needs to happen? So where can you find yourself in the process? And, I know that was an idea that we shared with, other, elsewhere on campus with the Turn Up, Turn Out and Ginsburg. And I think it's a helpful framework to have.
Thanks, Ellen, for pointing that out. Ellen, you're here and we're delighted to have you. Would you like to say something about what you know about the experiences on some of the other campuses that either tried or succeeded in getting satellite offices?
Yeah, and I'm not sure if they've spoken already, but Emma Drever is on the call as well, and I know that they were successful at Northern in adding a satellite campus location as well. We've had, and I want to thank Stephanie again for sharing the 10 Tuesdays template, because I know other campuses utilize that, and I think that it's spot on that students are not often thinking very far in advance. It's very instantaneous. And so the knowing that you can be a week out and here's what you need to do this week was really, really powerful. And I think should mold a lot of our communications plans as we think through the 22 midterms and other local elections that are approaching. So I really appreciate that research and format, and I hope clerks can take advantage of it as well in terms of how they share information with youth. So I am really impressed with the students who led a lot of these charges. So again, I just want to highlight the work that Emma did at Northern Michigan. Emma was the student body president in Northern Michigan and also a campus elect fellow at the time, and she was able to create and staff, oftentimes single-handedly, but with other volunteers that she generated, in their main student building, a satellite clerk's campus and our office. And the Marquette clerk was fantastic in working with Emma, and she was able to be deputized. And I also want to highlight a trend that are a success in terms of on-campus work that I hope doesn't have to happen again. But I am so grateful to Edie and to clerks across the state who noticed and worked around deputizing folks who needed to be deputized to work with students who were in quarantine and isolation housing during the COVID-19 pandemic. And I think it really made me think about how many plan Bs we have to have in this work. And the thoughtfulness and creativity that campuses showed during that moment was just profound. And so what's been a silver lining of the pandemic has been thinking through how our campuses can institutionalize this work. And I think all the campuses, GVSU, U of M, MSU, NMU that I'm aware of that had satellite clerks offices. What was fantastic were the signage. What was fantastic was the location, that it was closer to students, that students often volunteered as staff. I think that really drove a lot of student usage because they saw their peers there, and it wasn't as intimidating as it might be to walk into a polling location with folks who were 2-3 times your age. And I think that representation in a clerk's office is important. And so I'm also grateful to Eric for pointing out that we need more young people in these roles and to take advantage of those opportunities.
Landon, I know thank you, Ellen. I know we're getting up to our deadline, but let me just ask Jennifer, we learned in Ann Arbor, we originally wanted 2 satellite offices because we have a North Campus where a lot of our students live, and the clerk couldn't afford it. And I get that. So instead we put a drop box up there. But then she saw the difference in the turnout in that area versus turnout in the Central Campus area. And now she's entertaining a shortened version of a satellite office in the North Campus exhibit space, which once again will be a beautiful space that the art and design folks will design for us all. And I wondered if you've noticed the difference, whether you can even imagine doing more than 1 satellite office in East Lansing. Maybe you had others elsewhere around the city.
Yeah, we have thought about that for 2022, amongst other ideas. We even thought about, we like to do a month-long satellite office. So we thought about maybe doing the 4 main areas of campus and switching it up to a different building every week. So students don't have to travel as far if they walk or bike or get on the bus. We want to be able to get to those students and be as accessible as possible. So that's one idea we had. And then in addition to that, maybe still having another satellite office on the other side of the city, not just on campus as well, because that was successful in our community center last year as well. So lots of ideas going around for 2022. And that's why I said these pilot programs have been very helpful to see what works and what doesn't.
It's just remarkable how the clerks around the country adapted so quickly after the disastrous primary experiences so many experienced to provide the kind of safe and effective election experience not that long afterward. It was amazing to see what you all achieved. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate you for doing this. We know it wasn't easy. And I'm glad that the students were able to help with the need for poll workers, and which is another way that young people can help. I gather the average age for poll workers before the pandemic was over 60 years. And a lot of them, understandably, did not want to work at the polls during the COVID And so there was a big movement on our campus, and I'm sure at MSU and elsewhere all around, to help provide poll workers. And I trust you had what you needed by the time the election came to pass.
Yeah, we definitely had the same situation. Yep.
Yeah. So I want to thank everybody on the panel and those of you who participated and provided your perspectives. Go talk to your clerks. They're great people. Sit down and have a chat about what you might be able to do to help them and what sorts of issues you're having on your campus. And thank you to Campus Vote Project and SEEP and all of you for letting us do this panel.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. I think there was a lot of great information there. We blew through our break, which is okay. It was scheduled in there partly for that reason. And we'll start now with our preparing for elections panel, which is student-led. So I'm going to put all of our students on spotlight, and I'll start off by introducing Raymond Barber, who is going to moderate this panel for us. So I'll pass it off to him.
Awesome, thank you. Am I sounding okay? Jeremy, Landon, sounding all right? Awesome. So hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you all the students and administrators and allies of voting rights in this country. Thank you all for being here and giving us your time. So the topic is preparing for elections. We have a couple student leaders here that we wanted to talk to you guys about that. We've been Democracy Fellows. I was a Democracy Fellow for fall of 2020. And so I dealt with that election cycle. I worked with my administration, worked with students on my campus and things like that, just to make sure that people were registered to vote. We had systems in place where people could have access to go vote. We had buses, stuff like that. So I'd like to share that knowledge with you. I'm sure Jeremy would like to as well as our other panelists. So just to start off with introductions, my name is Raymond Barber. I'm a senior at the University of Detroit Mercy. I'm studying political science, and I'm in the pre-law program here. And I'm a Democracy Fellow, and I'm on the Student Advisory Board for Campus Vote Project. And something that got me into this work was literally like my neighborhood. There was this really big culture around voting where it was like, nothing's going to change, nothing's going to happen. And I felt like we felt the impacts of politics and, getting registered to vote, and we see these real world impacts. So I wanted to organize to do something about it. And it's literally a choice I haven't regretted. But that's my introduction, and I will pass it off to Jeremy Johnson, who's also another student leader.
All right, thank you. Yeah, my name is Jeremy Johnson. I have been involved in Campus Vote Project for about 3 years now. This will be my third year. I'm a junior at Open University studying political science with a specialization in campaigns and elections and a minor in philosophy. And I'd say the reason I got involved in Campus Vote Project is similar to what Raymond said, is that we can see the real world consequences and effects that not being involved in the system has. And I think that democracy is such a foreign concept to so many people. It doesn't really exist in any aspect in our lives. It doesn't really exist in the workplace, doesn't exist in our schools, probably doesn't exist in the house. People don't really know what democracy is. So when they're asked to engage within our political systems, they don't realize its importance. And we have seen in the world, when people don't engage in politics, when people don't vote, when we don't have high voter turnout rates, we don't get a government that's representative. And it's important that we get not only ourselves involved, but also everyone else around us involved, so that we can create a world that is more inclusive and is more conducive to success for average people.
Definitely, Jeremy. Are there any other panelists that are on right now? See, I see some missing names. Landon, can you double check for me?
Yeah, everyone should be spotlighted.
Alrighty, sounds good. Jeremy, I guess we can go into our first question. You and I are kind of one and the same with, working or organizing on our campuses. Can you tell me some of the challenges that you faced when preparing for an election? I know you worked 2020 as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think just to clarify quick, Raymond, all the other panels are up and visible.
Oh, okay.
Introduction scripts.
All right. So sorry about that.
If your
okay.
view is maybe different, if you switch it to Spotlight, all 5 should be up.
Gotcha. All right. So Logan, you're a panelist, right? No. Let's see, Stephanie.
No, here. So we can
Okay,
go.
go.
Alicia, if you want to go ahead.
So sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Hi, I am Alicia. I have been a fellow for the Campus Vote Project for I think 3 years now. I go to Washtenaw Community College. I'm studying pre-law paralegal degree, and right now this is my last year here. So I plan to go to Eastern after that. I am a part of the Campus Vote Project just because I've always really loved politics and voting rights and just knowing about how our system works. And I feel like especially younger voters tend to feel like their voice and their vote doesn't matter as much. And it's not they really don't have a say, and they shouldn't really talk about it because they don't know a lot. But I think if you encourage younger people to vote, and you encourage them to learn about our electoral system and how our democracy works, they're going to be a lot more invested in the future of our country. And that's what we want. We want people invested in the future of our country. We want people who care about what's going to happen. And as long as we continue to lift voices up of younger people, I think that's what we're going to see. And that's partially why I am so invested in getting students registered to vote and encouraged to let their voices be heard.
Awesome. And then Noah.
Yeah, I'm Noah Karcher. My major is philosophy, and I go to Michigan State. And I'm a political organizer, I guess, kind of for a lot of the same reasons. I feel like just like growing up in kind of this political climate has been like, I feel like we're presented with a lot of problems and a lot of like bad things, and it's like, what is going to happen? We don't know. And I feel like I don't know, I feel like I want to try at least as much as I can to do something about that, and I feel like getting involved in the democratic process does a lot, at least a little bit of good for people in the area.
Awesome. And our last panelist, Ariane.
Hi, can you all hear me okay? I have my AirPods in. Okay, great. Hi, my name is Ariana. Most folks just call me Ari. I use she, her, and they, them pronouns, and I'm a student at Eastern Michigan University, currently studying statistics and public and nonprofit administration. I know those are 2 totally different things. We'll talk about it another time. I really like this work because I feel like it's the best way that I can kind of be like the nexus for students to get them access to voting, because in my experience, I've found that students in my area, it's not that they're apathetic or that they don't care. They're actually a lot more informed than we give them credit for. It's just that there are so many systemic measures in place that deter them from voting. Like, if you don't have the day off of school, or if you do, but you have an exam the very next day, that's not really encouragement to go vote on the day of an election. Or if there's no public transport, or if you're dealing with housing insecurity, or any of the hundreds and hundreds of issues that can come up just being a student voter, there's nothing really in place to support you through this process. I found that through like Campus Elect and a lot of local resources in the area, there are tools that do help people, but they're just not connected to the students at my campus. So I've been trying to do what I can to kind of bridge that gap and institutionalize these lines of communication so that they're always there even when I graduate. So yeah, I'm glad to be here.
All right. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Noah. Thank you, Alicia. Good to see you guys again. So sorry about that. But to get the conversation going again, so we'll go one at a time. So each panelist has a chance to answer the question. So Jeremy, just to start with you, can you share some of the challenges you faced when prepping for an election on your campus. It could be campus specific, or just different obstacles you face in general.
Yeah, so, and I'm sure this is probably the truth for all other student organizers, but I've only ever really been around Campus Vote Project in this organizing activity during election years. So I was kind of just tossed into it, and had to work through the challenges right away. And obviously the biggest challenge was COVID-19, and getting around the fact that we had to do everything digitally, and for good reason, but there was no real option for us to physically engage with students like we usually would be able to. We couldn't go to populated areas on campus and table, and kind of camp outside the dining halls, or for me, it would be the Oakland Center on Oakland University's campus. That wasn't really an option for us. So we had to figure out how we were going to get around that and how we were going to still mobilize voters for 2020, even though we couldn't physically see them. And the other, one of the biggest challenges I faced, because I'm a part of the student government at Oakland University, so we have kind of a reach into administration's realm. So we're able to communicate with them pretty easily. But what I've found, at least at Oakland University, and maybe just in general, is that a lot of the time administrators push back against student initiatives. It takes a long time to get things to change on a university's campus. And it came down to things like we were pushing for an election day policy, and we faced hard resistance against that. Even though ostensibly it's a good thing, it allows for students to go out and vote without having their education be an obstacle to that. But we got a lot of pushback, and that's really the truth for any kind of institutional effort that you want to implement into your university, is that you have to find a way to rally enough grassroots support to the point where they can't ignore you anymore. And so that'd probably be the two challenges that I would say were the biggest that I faced throughout the past year.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I just want to clarify on one point real quick. And see, the size of Oakland University, like, do you happen to know how many students are on that campus? I know it's kind of like a mid to larger campus.
We have a pretty large commuter population. I believe we're about 75% commuter, but overall our student population, I think, is about 16,000 people.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to show like the varying sizes of our universities. So there's also going to be a diverse range of options that you can use to organize students. See, Alicia, can you tell us about some challenges you faced when preparing for elections?
So again, the COVID-19 pandemic was a huge obstacle that I think everyone had to face, and really had to rework how we plan out events, and a lot of them had to go online. But I think something that might be more applicable to smaller campuses or community colleges especially, is a lot of our population, they don't stay on campus, they don't live on campus, there's no housing there. And a lot of our students actually live pretty far away. They have full-time jobs most of the time, or they have families, or they have other responsibilities. So they don't really have time to sit and talk to you. Even if you are on campus, they don't have the time to like sit and listen to you about how to register to vote, how to be engaged with on campus, because they just don't have the time. They have other responsibilities they have to do. They're very much like, we go to class, I have to go right now. We don't really go to, like, there's a student center, but they don't really hang out there for an extended period of time. And most people that do hang out there, they don't really want to be bothered. They very much just want to sit, do their homework, focus, and then get out of there as soon as possible. So I think that's the biggest challenge that we have faced. And so partially even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we were exploring a lot more online options, because we wanted to still build a sense of community in the college, because every student who goes to college wants a sense of community. They go there and they see a sense of community, even if they may not be in clubs or on campus all the time. And that's the best way we've been able to get students registered or get students involved, is by building up our social media followings, making online events, creating quizzes to like get students involved with student engagement. So I think just knowing where, like, the struggle of just getting students involved and helping them when they don't have the time to get involved, and making it flexible to them.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely utilizing online resource, like resources is important. Thank you, Alicia. I just wanted to say for our attendees in the audience, please feel free to use the chat feature so you can ask us questions. Anything comes to mind, just go ahead and type it in the chat, and we'll answer questions at the end. But moving on, Noah, good to see you. Can you tell us some about the challenges that you faced when organizing on your campus?
Yeah, so I feel like it's kind of some similar things going on Michigan State's campus. I think it's hard to get people motivated to like come to an event or do something. So yeah, we kind of try to use like, I don't want to say this, but like food as a motivator to like get people to show up places. But yeah, yeah, it is very hard. I feel like, especially with a bigger campus like Michigan State, there's so many different people from different backgrounds and different majors that different ideas or ideologies get people motivated. So even though we like present ourselves as a bipartisan or like nonpartisan voting organization, like I feel like some people still kind of I don't know, find it hard to get like motivated behind that. And especially like finding places on campus to set up, like obviously with COVID, but I mean ever since COVID we've tried to do some like booths and tables and stuff like that to get people registered to vote. But it's really hard finding like one place where students congregate. Yeah.
See, and Noah, I don't know if you know, but like, can you tell us the size of MSU? Because, I think we all know it's huge, but like, do you know how many students there are in undergrad?
I don't know how many students there are in undergrad, but like the entire campus is like, it's very large, and there's so many different buildings, and like there's like 4 sections of campus, like north, south, east, and west, and like each major concentration has like their own building pretty much. Yeah, 60,000, that definitely sounds right. And they're always like, it's always changing. I mean, especially since like with COVID, like we've just been thinking about it, and like probably around 75% of the students have never like set foot on college campus before. So it's like they're probably all just as confused as we are as trying to find where people go to like get the most foot traffic.
Yeah, that's definitely a real problem on campuses right now. And Ari, can you please explain to us, the challenges you faced on your campus? We'll be moving on to the successes that you guys had. So like how you guys handled this, like more specifically, like, how you approach those problems. But Ari, can you close us out on the challenges you faced?
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely echo all of the sentiments about COVID being such a difficulty to work through. I started my work in January of 2020. So like basically every single semester we've had some interference with the pandemic. And like personally, it hit me really hard. I had a lot of family members both here and abroad that were heavily impacted by it. So emotionally, just like being present with any work outside of what was happening in my personal life was difficult. But also, like, I wasn't alone in this, right? Like, there were so many students in my area that were also like heavily impacted by all of this as well. Speaking specifically on the note of like students who have never set foot on campus, I work in orientation, and we were taking data of like all of these FIDIAC students, which are first time on a college campus students, who spent a year like virtually and how to transition them into these things on campus. And we're seeing like kind of the ill effects of having like a full year online with no real transition to in person. How no one knows where anything is. No one really congregates on campus either. Like our student center is bare. If anything, like the new place to be is the science complex for some reason. Like the whole campus culture has very much changed, and it's made like event planning like extremely difficult because no one really knows. Like there's been a huge reset button hit because almost the entirety of the campus population is all new students or students who have never really seen the way things flow here. And no one has really like come to a consensus on where they're about to be, because it's only October. You know, we've only really been here a month, and everyone is kind of hesitant to be anywhere for too long, because right now our cases are low. We don't really know how things will progress, and we all want to stay safe. So yeah, I'm just really hoping that things kind of transition out of this kind of awkward phase that we're in, where we're slowly getting to know our buildings and surroundings.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much, Ari. So I feel like, you know, kind of an underlying theme here is that, like, you know, we're talking about, like, it's hard to figure out where people congregate. You know, there's methods around that. But before we get to that, you know, there's definitely a culture that comes with that, like political culture. Like, you know, people don't know like what's okay, what's not okay. So it's kind of up to organizers, like everyone here, people that have decision-making ability, to figure that out on their campuses. So we're really excited that you guys are here for this. Jeremy, so leading off with our next question, you know, what were some successes you had on your campus when preparing for elections? You know, what are the ways around like the problems we just talked about? You know, talking about how there's no students on campus, they don't know anything about campus, you know, they're online. How did you deal with those issues?
Yeah, so my main focus through my organizing was always removing barriers, the structural barriers to students being able to vote. And to me, this always came down to two things. What would be this time that students have to take out of their day to go and vote, and the money that is required for students to spend to be able to vote. So things like paying for stamps so they can send their absentee ballot in, or getting the documents to register to vote, whatever it may be. And I noticed that within really my university, but probably every other university, there's not really the infrastructure to deal with that. And so what my main focus really was pushing an election day policy for the university, which we're still not there, but we've got the university to bend quite a bit. They've gotten to the point where they say that they're going to allow professors, they're going to amend university policy to allow professors to give excused absences on those days, which is a step in the right direction, but to me, not enough. And on the side of economics or people's financial standing, we started a free stamp program, since a lot of students at Oakland University are commuters. They vote in like the 8th district, the 11th district, the 9th district. They live all around Michigan, so they're not necessarily voting only in the district that Oakland University resides in. So we started a free stamp program so that they could send their absentee ballots in free of charge. Of course, we allowed anybody to get free stamps. It wasn't just for your absentee ballot, but that was there for them, and that was never an option before. And on top of that, of course, we stuck with all of our regular organizing tactics, tabling, registering students to vote, and doing all of that, the grassroots work that you may usually do, and things that we're looking forward to doing in the future. I'm really excited to get a kind of civic engagement committee started with all the student organizations. We're working on getting that started ahead of 2022. I think that's really going to enable us to contact a lot more people than we usually are able to. And I also am working closely with the Center for Civic Engagement on Oakland University's campus to set up kind of a one-stop shop for everything civic participation, as like a website portal. I know a lot of other universities have this. MSU has a very nice voter engagement portal on their website, but Oakland University doesn't. And we're behind in many ways when it comes to voter participation. So I'm excited to continue doing this work. 2020 was a really hard year to organize for, especially because I don't think any of us know how to organize in a pandemic. We've never had to do it before. But I'll say that we figured it out. And maybe the contentiousness of the election helped us out a little bit, but we got there.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy. So we got about 5 minutes left. We'll try to end a little bit on time. But yeah, Alicia, would you like to tell us your greatest successes on your campus?
Yeah, so I saw a question in the chat just to talk about more about the things we've done online. What we've done mostly is social media posts, making sure leading up to the election, we had a social media post every other week to make sure that it was constantly going through people's feeds. With the link to TurboVote, we have TurboVote on our campus, but you can also put the link in for the Secretary of State, because we now have online voter registration, which is super helpful and a great thing to tell students about, because it's going to make it a lot more accessible. We have a Campus Connect page, which I don't know if every college has a Campus Connect, but it's mostly just a thing of just it's a social media page for clubs and stuff, and that's what we have, and we post a lot there. Doing interactive things is really helpful for us, like making quizzes, like little quizlets, and like if you get a good score, you take the quiz and you're the top scorer, you get a prize that we can mail to you or something. Keeping track of that, doing things that are going to make students feel engaged or going to catch students' attention, and just like this is not like the 10, making it look different than like the 20 other emails or notifications they're going to get throughout a day from campuses. That's probably the most successful things we've seen. But yeah, so just making students feel involved and getting the information out there. I also really love Jeremy's idea of free stamps. That sounds great.
Yeah, I do too, Alyssa. It's all about, talking to administration, getting it done. But yeah, I mean, telling them about online registration, early voting dates, stuff like that. That's really good, helpful information to know. So definitely reaching out to the email server, getting that blasted out. Maybe that's part of the 10 Tuesdays that we guys talked about earlier. Noah, what were some biggest successes on your campus? I know you said free food, which is just like everyone can relate to. But yeah, any successes on your campus? Big ones.
Yeah, well, I think MSU does actually a pretty good job of being like accessible to voters. I don't know what organization like deems this, but something that we worked really hard on is making sure that MSU is considered a voter-friendly campus. So like our student union is a polling place, like some of our like class buildings are polling places, and like you can get registered to vote on campus. Like I also work with like the coalition with other interns called like MSU Vote. And what they do a lot is like planning these events and like making sure that everyone knows about it, as well as facilitating discussion. During COVID, we got to have a lot of these like democracy dinner types. I don't remember exactly what we called them, but just that type of thing where people can have food and we can have like good discussions with people who can give like presentations about things like redistricting and just making sure that everyone knows what they're doing. Something that I think we're doing really well at right now is we're trying to get a club, or like it's called a student organization, and like getting people who are students to just like get involved. I think we've been really successful in finding like people who want to get engaged in that, because I think that after spending like over a year doing school from home, like students who are on campus, if you find the right people, like they really want to get active. So like all we really had to do was like set up a table at our like giant like school-wide career fair and be like, hey, come sign up and come do this, and you can actually get involved and you actually have something to do other than be a freshman alone in your dorm room. So I think we've done a really good job at that.
Love that idea, Noah. Yeah, voter registration on campus. I think every campus should have that, but every campus doesn't have that. So that's a great place to start. Ari, your thoughts on your biggest successes on campus?
Yeah, I'm glad that Noah brought up the point about like voter-friendly campuses, because that's something that I'm trying to embed in Eastern, because unfortunately we are not a voter-friendly campus. There are some good things though. The students do care. A lot of my work in the 2020 election looked like a series of one-on-ones or two-on-ones with queer students and or closeted students of color to kind of help get them to the polls. Everybody had different barriers that they were facing. A lot of them dealt with difficulty establishing the right voter ID, and Vote Riders literally saved my life when it came to this. They have a separate tab on their website that just walks through like voter ID specifically for trans students. And that resource was really, really helpful for all of those students that were struggling with voter ID for a number of reasons, whether because they were facing discrimination, personal pushback, they had voter ID set up, but it was using like their dead name, just a number of concerns. Vote Riders was really so helpful to work through all of that. EMU Engage as an app was also really helpful, because if you just emailed them, they would post literally anything for you. That's kind of like our unofficial official social media platform for Eastern students, and it's frequented a lot by first year students, so they were very, very kind and supportive when it came to publicizing any messages about the upcoming election, where to go vote. The Honors College actually is a voting precinct, but it's a little hard to get there for people who have never been on campus before because every building looks exactly the same. I'm just going to say it, they all do. So it was a little bit of a process, but eventually we did get some students that were willing to help like direct the flow of traffic and kind of support people like who actually wanted to be at the polls on that day. There's still a lot of work to be done. Eastern recently did kind of quietly declare Election Day as a holiday for this semester, but it remains to be seen if that will be embedded into future semesters the way it should be. So there's definitely a lot of work we have to do in connecting with administration, but they are dealing with a lot right now. COVID did do a number on Eastern's budget in ways that aren't completely clear to the student body yet, but are evident in certain ways how certain facilities have kind of dwindled in this year. But I'm pretty optimistic. All the students that I've spoken with are excited and engaged, and they really do care. It's just a matter of getting things all in order ahead of the 2022 midterms and ahead of the municipal elections in Ipsy this November. So I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ari, Jeremy, Alicia, Noah. Thank you guys for the time today. We are cutting it close on time. So first I want to ask the panelists, do you have any additional tips to give to the audience, and also like audience, if you guys have any, if you all have any questions, please put it in the chat real quick and we might be able to get to those. Would anyone like to speak up and give any final tips?
Last tip that I would offer, if you're looking to do anything big on campus vis-a-vis voting, first identify the need. Try to figure out what your campus doesn't have, what your campus does have. Like OU is different than MSU, it's different than Eastern Michigan. Every campus is going to be different. Every campus is going to offer different resources. And it's important you first recognize what the students don't have and what the students may already have access to that you don't need to waste your time focusing on. And then also find others to help you out. You can't do it alone. As much as we may want to think that through our own individual will, we can just bring things into existence, it's just not true. We live on a campus community for a reason. The reason to live in a community is to help each other. So find people that are willing to do the work for you, with you. You can't get that far alone.
I'd also just like to add that following up is so important. Things move so slowly in higher ed, and it's honestly to no fault of anyone in particular. It's just the way things are when people have 100 things to do and they're just one person in their role. So it might feel a little uncomfortable at first to be that person that sends 3 emails in a row, but sometimes you kind of have to get a response and have them remember like, oh yeah, this is coming up and this is important to a pretty big subset of our student population. So we should probably do some more work on this.
Awesome. Thank you everyone on the panel for participating. I think this was great. I think there was a lot of good tips on student organizing on campus, and it's great to hear all of the work you have all been successful on. And just a quick round of applause for all of our panelists for the great work they've been doing and will continue to do. Awesome. So next we are going to our moving forward. So we have a special guest speaker, and I will introduce him. So I am happy, let me actually pin him first, but I am happy to introduce Jason Morgan. Jason Morgan is a county commissioner for Washtenaw County, but he's also familiar with many different aspects of work on college campuses. He was a student leader at Northern Michigan University, a graduate student at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. He's an instructor at Washtenaw County Community College, and he's also now a trustee at Northern Michigan. So he's had many different roles and has had many different experiences in local government and knows the importance of getting students civically engaged. So please join me in welcoming Jason Morgan.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Landon, for that kind introduction. And thank you for hosting this Student Voter Summit. You guys are doing amazing work. You all are doing amazing work. And it is so wonderful to be part of this session and talking with you all today. As Landon mentioned, my name is Jason Morgan, and I'm very proud to serve as a Washtenaw County Commissioner representing Central Ann Arbor on the Board of Commissioners. And I first want to say very clearly and definitively that your voice matters, your vote matters, and you matter. I believe many of you probably know that by the fact that you are here today and you're listening to these sessions, but we must have young people participate in our political process. And I'm so impressed that each and every one of you are here taking the time to do that. I got my start as a student activist up at Northern Michigan University, volunteering with several student organizations on campus, and then later being elected as our student body president, where I made it my mission to be a vocal and effective voice for those I represented, which were students. On many occasions, that resulted in me butting heads with people that were far more important than I was. I'll spare you the long story, but the long and short is there were many occasions where I was thought of as too vocal or too much of an activist or too engaged. And I'll tell you in hindsight, everybody who told me that was absolutely wrong. I was almost kicked out of college as student body president. I will share as well. I was charged with disorderly conduct for a letter to the editor in the student newspaper. I certainly think there are some folks on campus today who probably thought, what in the world is the governor doing when she appointed me as a trustee many years later? But you know, I've learned some things during my time, certainly learned different approaches to going about how to be an activist, and maybe not necessarily how to not get in trouble, but to do it in a more sophisticated way, or take a different approach. Fortunately, I was not kicked out. I was successful in defending myself, and the fact that obviously a letter to the editor is not reason for disorderly conduct, as I think anyone else would agree. But it really taught me a lot about being an activist, making my voice heard, and how to do that effectively. When I stepped onto campus for the first time, I had no idea I would ever run for office. It just wasn't something that I would have ever even dreamt of. And really, you know, today I'm in my third term as a county commissioner, teaching government, running for state representative, serving as a trustee for my alma mater. Let me tell you, the idea that I could go from student government president to trustee is still something that fills me with such an incredible amount of pride and humbleness. But it also was just something I would have never dreamt of in a million years. To give you maybe some additional context as to why I some days am still in disbelief about the opportunities that I've had over my years, let me share a little bit about my background. I grew up in Northern Michigan, a small town called Pinconning, Michigan. I grew up on a small commercial fishery, which is a bit unique, I think. And to put it bluntly, my family was poor. No one in my immediate family had ever received any form of higher education. I was a first generation college student. And you know, my mother used to tell me a lot that we didn't have a lot of money, but we had a whole lot of love. And that is something that resonates with me today and is sort of a grounding force in my life as I think about public policy. I was also a young LGBTQ individual growing up in a pretty conservative community. That gave me a lot of experience feeling left out and left behind. That paired with growing up with a disability has also really shaped how I approach government, how I see my role as a public official, and why I think it's so important that people be engaged in the political process, and not just engaged, but engaged in a sincere and meaningful way. During my past 5 years as commissioner, it has been my mission to engage more citizens in our county government. And certainly one of the things I'm the most proud of was the creation of a Washtenaw County Youth Commission. We created a youth commission through our county government, and we didn't just say like, here's a youth commission, let's take some applicants. We actually had a committee of young people selected from every county commission district across Washtenaw County come together and spend a year actually developing what the youth commission would look like, outlining the structure, design, the bylaws, like every part of it. So we essentially had young people create their own commission for us so that we can engage them in county government. Let's be honest, county government isn't the first form of government young people think of when they think they want to get involved in politics. They think of city council or state legislature or Congress or something like that. County government isn't always sexy or exciting to most people. But let me tell you, the things that we do as a county certainly are. It's human services, public health, managing a pandemic, all these things, the criminal justice system or court system, all of these things that we have a significant impact on. Anyway, so we created a youth commission and it has been phenomenal. We have a diverse group of young people from every part of our community coming together to weigh in on the issues that we're dealing with here in Washtenaw County and sharing their thoughts and ideas with us. And it is one of the most passionate and heartwarming things that I have the privilege of being part of. So I'm not just going to tell you I value young people's perspectives. I will tell you and show you, because we're doing that here in Washtenaw County. It may help that most people, when they first meet me, often think I'm a youth activist or a student. And I often have to remind them that I am not. I'm actually in office and I have run for office. And while being on the younger side of most of our politicians, at the age of 32, I am older than I appear, but it is helpful sometimes to give me a different perspective of seeing how people interact with you when they think that you are not one of their peers or not at their level sometimes. It gives us a huge opportunity to surprise them with what we are able to do as young people. But I'm not really here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you and why your voice and your vote matters. So I share that background really just to make sure that you know that each and every one of you has the opportunity to make the world a better place, regardless of your place in life, your gender, race, sexual orientation, or gender identity, your disability status, or any other aspect of who you are that makes you unique and beautiful. Your voice matters, your vote matters, and your vote matters because elections are decided by slim majorities today. One vote truly does make a difference. A good friend of mine, Yusuf Robbie, he is now a state legislator and the House Minority Floor Leader. He won by literally one vote in his first race for public office for county commission. There was a recount, in which case he won by 2 votes, so he doubled his margin. But ultimately he won by 1 or 2 votes. That's huge. And he's now playing a significant role today in shaping statewide policy that impacts everyone who lives in Michigan. That's huge. That is amazing. So one vote really does matter. Your vote matters because you have the ability to make politics better. I really believe that it's up to you, your generation, and mine, and sort of being on the younger side of generation here, to do better, to be better, and to believe in a more hopeful future of our politics and our state of Michigan. In a world of bitter and divided politics, I really believe that we have the ability to rise above to a world that's both passionate and compassionate, where we can advocate strongly for the issues that we care about without demonizing those who disagree with us. And we have a climate today where the most polarizing voices get the most attention. I think we can do better than that. We can elect good, honest, decent people who are champions for their constituents and the things that they believe in, while also serving as pragmatic and effective public servants who can get things done without disrupting the entire system in a way that means nothing gets done. People who can work together, but certainly not lose their passion for their values and the things that they really believe in. I will certainly tell you, I am somebody who will make my voice heard when I believe there's an injustice happening or a policy change that needs to be made. But you can do that in a way that is collaborative and toward a future that is, I think, better. So lastly, I'll talk to you a little bit about what I think are Michigan values. In Michigan, we value kindness, passion, grit. What I love most about being from the Midwest is that people always describe us as warm, despite our unusually cold, well, usually cold weather. We don't really have cold weather right now, but they describe us as friendly, but also tough and resilient. That is something that just fills me with all of the pride in the world. We value the unique diversity of our friends and neighbors. We value democracy. basic things like access to the ballot, voting rights as we saw through the vote in 2018 for Proposition 3, which significantly expanded voting rights and access to voting for so many of our citizens. We value good government, as shown through our vote as citizens in Michigan to create the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. That commission, we'll see what the final results are, but we created something as Michiganders, who that will hopefully come up with a process for redistricting that is fair and unbiased and effective going forward, rather than politicians just drawing their own lines. I just think these are some things that citizens voted for, which are phenomenal. They show that we value democracy in Michigan. And I certainly would ask you all to push back very hard against anyone who tries to limit our access to democracy here in Michigan. And I don't say that as in any way a partisan way. This should be nonpartisan. Voting rights, access to democracy, and these fundamental rights we have as citizens should be bipartisan or nonpartisan. They should be things that we all value. I could go on more, but I do want to just leave you with a few thoughts. I know you're approaching the end of your day here. So a few thoughts I have and hopes for you would be to be a voter, to be an activist, show up and make your voice heard, make sure you're showing up for the right reasons, to help others and to serve our community, help lift up the voices of others who may not feel they have a voice or who don't have the ability to make their voice heard. And above all else, just make sure to be good, honest, decent people. We need more of you who will help make our state and our country a better place to live, work, learn, and grow, just to make our country a better place. So I ran for office because I love our community, I love our state, and I believe our government has the ability to help people, the ability to change lives. And I truly believe that we're doing these things in Washtenaw County, and look forward to working with all of you as we continue to strive for that goal of making our state a better place and making our community a better place. So thank you so much. It is such an honor to be with you, and please reach out to me at any time if I can be helpful in your journey to whatever you hope to do and whatever you hope to achieve in the world. Thank you so much. Thanks, Landon.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. That was wonderful. And I think those are really great feedback about and to hear your journey to where you are now. So thank you so much for that. We'll now be moving to our breakout sessions. So we'll be breaking out into student groups, and then we'll have our campus partners, administrators, and faculty in the other room. So hopefully I have done it right and everyone is pre-assigned. And so that goes well. Let's try this out. Okay, so I'm going to open the rooms, and then if you're unassigned, I can help you get in the right room. So I will start assigning people. And this is just, we'll have moderators in there to sort of talk about what you will be speaking about, but it's mostly just what resources would be helpful for you as a student, as a campus partner, or as an administrator to get more students involved on campus. So if you want to join the room, and then we'll have someone in there to guide the conversation.
Landon, would you like me to join the staff room?
Yes, I just assigned you to that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Landon. Great to be with you. Enjoy the rest of the summit here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And then would one of you like to lead the student room? Nate, do you want to do that? Oh, yeah, because you're not co-host. Okay, sorry, got to make you co-host again. Oh, and Chuck, you couldn't talk either. I'm sorry, I forgot I had that feature. There. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'll send. Let's see. I'll just put in students. Cool.
And Landon, I can join wherever, but I'm on my phone now, so I won't have access to chat.
Okay. Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Hopefully that was helpful and to have great conversations about more resources for the future. I do want to include one that I shared in the student group as it might be helpful for others. It's a Google Doc and it's about the Michigan redistricting process. And it just is, what is gerrymandering? What is redistricting? It's a great thing to be able to share with students as it just has simple information. And it is a Google Doc, and we'll update it with links for events that we do for Michigan in the future. So if you keep it in the Google Doc format, that should get updated throughout the semester as the redistricting process goes on. But it's also just a great resource to be able to like print off and show students if you're doing a redistricting event. So yeah, I guess I want to pass it over to Ellen or Nate to also wrap it up here with me.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for coming and for hanging out with us today. We had some really exciting, knowledgeable panelists who came and visited with us, and I hope you all learned a lot. I know I did. And we look forward to doing this again with you next year. Ellen?
Yeah, I'll just repeat what I said to the staff breakout room. I'm really grateful for each of you for all the work that you put in. And I will just honor the time that you've put into this and the time that you continue to put into this, because it is really important. I'll also add Campus Select has fellowship positions that will begin in January. So if you have additional students who might be interested, start talking to them now. They can apply. The admissions are rolling. It's just on our website, campusselect.org. We will actually be scaling up. I believe there will be 30 or so fellows in the state for all of 2022. So we would love to have your students or your friends, if you're a student, to join us. So please spread the word. And we're excited to continue partnering with all of you. And again, our thanks for your continued dedication to our students and democracy.
Awesome. Yes, thank you both for that. That was great. And CVP will have fellows again continuing throughout as well. So as always, and other resources, voter-friendly campus. And the statement of interest is due for January, and that I'd be happy to meet with anyone and help go over that and what that process looks like, provide more information. But that's a really helpful designation, and plenty of other resources to come with that redistricting guide and other guides we'll be releasing throughout as well. So always here for any needs, feel free to reach out to me. I'll put my email in chat. I don't want to hold us over though. We've already had a long day here. So we have the remaining 2 minutes if anyone wants to hang around for a few extra minutes or have anything they want to talk about or questions. And we're really excited for all of this. So thank you.